before I carry on with where we left yesterday, first of all, the question that Venerable Jambal came yesterday, so that I think is really very interesting. So first of all, let me just carry on with this a bit, and then we'll do the main text. The question as to, with the two analogies. Analogy in Swatantra Madhyamika, where we have the illusion, magical illusion, and the Prasangika Madhyamika, where we have the coil of rope and the snake analogy, or the example. Okay, that really, it was a great lesson for me as well. In fact, I went on and my mind automatically simply going around that, the question by Venerable Jambala and the responses. So now to make it really very brief, I think maybe we need to put it this way. Say, with the analogy of the magical illusion, so the kind of the context we're trying to bring in here is that we speak of, we are really enjoying the magical illusion, right? We're enjoying the magical illusion. So you are simply pointing to the magical illusion, magical illusion, and then you are discussing as to, what is that magical illusion? And then you say that this magical illusion that we are enjoying, then later on you come to know that that magical illusion that you enjoyed is a result of the pebbles, the blessed pebbles and your distorted eyes, right? So whereas in the case of the coil of rope and the snake example, we simply say, I'm frightened of the snake. I was frightened of the snake. Instead of saying that I was frightened of the appearance of the snake. Right? So you are frightened of the snake. So then when you are, later on when you discover that, there's nothing to be frightened about. Or say someone else, I was so frightened. Can you help me? And the person says, what? About that snake. So that snake is simply your own creation, So we're not talking about the appearance of the snake. We're talking about the snake. Because you're not frightened by the rod, by the appearance of the snake. Even after knowing that it is not a snake, you can have the appearance of the snake. So there you are not frightened, right? So what you were frightened, so this is the issue. You were made, you were frightened because of, you're having the appearance of the snake, and you say that you're frightened. I'm frightened of the snake. Where is the snake? Then what will be your response? Is your total imagination, 100% your own imagination, your own mental creation. There is no snake at all there. So whereas in the case of the magical illusion, where is the magical illusion? That is just 100% your own creation. Is it so? No, this is 50% from your side and 50% from the object side. So here we need to simply, deal with the two objects. In the case of the magical illusion, we need to ask, what are you enjoying? You're enjoying. You went there to enjoy something. Enjoy what? The magical illusion. So that what you are enjoying there, what is that? What are you enjoying? Magical illusion in a magical show. So that magical show, is that 100% your own mental imputation? You're 50-50, right? Right. In the second analogy, what are you frightened of? Snake. Are you frightened of the appearance of the snake? No, just the snake. So is that snake there? Is it created, is that 50% from the object side, 50% from your side, or just totally your own creation, the snake? Yeah, so this is the, the snake one really fits there in the Prasangika, because Prasangika, everything, just 100% projected from one's own side, mental projection. And in the Swatantra Madhyamika, 50% mental projection, 50% object side, right? Is that right? Okay, don't come up with the next challenging question. Oh, I really learned a lot. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So look, so this is how we mutually learn. It's amazing, amazing. I'm really grateful to you. Yeah. Okay, now let us carry on from where we left yesterday. So that is, say, objects of knowledge, the second para. Objects of knowledge can be divided into functional and non-functional objects. The former is of two kinds, forms and non-forms. Refute, as explained in other texts, Vasubandhu's 20 stanzas, the existence of directionally partless particles in the case of forms and temporarily partless moments in relation to mind. So this we already did, right? So we have already kind of come to the understanding that as long as something is a physical form, it must have directional parts, smaller directional parts, which constitute that whole thing. And as long as something is a mind, it must have a smaller temporal parts, which constitute to form that, a particular referent mind. So this is the point where we came to. Now the next point is thereby establish that all functional things necessitate having parts. So when you look for functional things, so basically we see the physical body and the minds, right? Physical body and the minds. And of course there's the third category. What is that? Abstract composite phenomena, right? Of course. Yeah, but we see that this is relatively much easier because the composite, the abstract composite phenomena. So what examples do you have? Democracy. It seems like, Sravasti is so fond of that. Okay, so sorry?
With a little hierarchy thrown in.
Oh, yeah.
Are mental factors in that?
Mental, actually, in the category of mind, all forms of mind simply can be dumped in there, in this group. All forms of mind, simply, whether it's primary mind, mental factors, all simply dumped in this group, right? So what else? So what about impermanence? We are supposed to be meditating upon impermanence. Yeah, impermanence is one of the abstract phenomena. And the functional thing itself, functional thing is also abstract composite phenomena. And impermanence, So these belong to the abstract composite phenomena. So they are relatively more easy because, when you really look for this impermanence, this is form, or this is mind, or this is impermanent. You don't have such category, Impermanence. So when you look for impermanent, you have to look for either form or mind, So aside these, if you look for impermanent phenomena, I don't think anyone can provide you one, right? So it is on the basis of the physical form, for example, the table, that we can speak of impermanence. Or table is disintegrating moment by moment. So this is what is known as impermanence. Similar to mind. Or when I was young, my knowledge was something. So now, relatively more knowledge. So again, we see the mind also changing. So because the mind changes, we again ascribe a quality of impermanence. We talk of impermanence in relation to mind. So these abstract composite phenomena, they can be relatively, easier when you speak about how they simply are designated on the basis of the forms and the minds. Right? Okay.
I have confusion about that now because I thought that there were three categories. that there was forms, consciousness, and abstract composites.
3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you have forms, consciousness, then how could you have all the primary minds? And with the primary minds are the consciousness.
I see. Yeah.
That's my understanding.
This is actually, you're right. Absolutely, you're right. So, actually, it's a translation problem. So here, look, we have no unanimous, or consensus in the terminology, whereas there is no standardized terminology. So, at least, for the time being, let's say form and the minds, the form, mind, and abstract composite phenomena, right? So within this mind, they, we can think of the primary minds and the secondary minds, or the mental factors, right? So some translators translate as secondary minds and others translate as mental factors, right? Number one. Number two, with the primary mind, I call it primary mind, but in the actual Tibetan version, there's also the primary mind is there, primary mind. And also, many translators, they translate the primary mind as the consciousness. And then they don't put the mental factors under consciousness, right? So, for them, the consciousness and the primary mind, they simply equate, synonyms. So, whichever way you like to do, after all, we have to know that within the domain of this mind, there are the primary minds and the secondary minds. And then whatever translation that you would like to go for, just feel free to do that, right? So, all primary minds and secondary minds, they fall in this category of the second category, mental, the mental group or the minds. So, now we see that thereby establish that all functional things necessitate having parts, So since that the impermanence associated with, now we are talking about abstract phenomena, we briefly know, we roughly know about the forms as to how they should necessarily have parts. And we also know about the minds, how they should necessarily have parts. Now about impermanence, the abstract composite phenomena, like impermanence. So impermanence of what? Impermanence of the table, impermanence of my mind, impermanence of the tree. So when you speak about the impermanence of the table, just as the table has various parts, the impermanence of table as well has various parts. The impermanence of the top flat part of the table, impermanence of the first leg of the table, second leg of the table, third, fourth, So we can speak of the impermanence. Again, the first moment of the table, likewise, there's the first moment of the impermanence of the table. Second moment of the table, likewise, the impermanence of the second moment of the table. Again, temporal, we can think of the impermanence, impermanence having parts in terms of the temporal segments. And impermanence in the form of, when you take impermanence in relation to the physical forms, then we can also speak about the impermanence having directional parts, Oh, the impermanence of the table towards the east side, impermanence of the table of the west side, there's directional parts, right? Okay, so this is relatively easier. So now, so anyway, when we establish emptiness, don't be so bothered about, everything. Simply try to follow the instructions as given by Lama Tsongkhapa first. When you're able to succeed in this, then you try to expand it, if you like, with more complexities, right? So anyway, first let's see. Thereby establish that all functional things necessitate having parts. So simply for the time being, let's see the world of form, physical form, and the world of minds, right? So within these two, we see that all functional things can be somehow encapsulated, grouped into, because the composite things, the abstract composite things, they either belong to the physical form, for example, the impermanence of form, or they belong to the mental world, the impermanence of the mind. Other than these two, you cannot think of anything else. And you might say that, what about the impermanence of impermanence? You know? But then what about the what? Impermanence of what? Impermanence of form. Ultimately, somehow, it has to be pointed to either form or mind. Clear? Okay. Next. Given now, look, this is the whole point. So, in your meditation, make sure, of course, in the beginning, you know, this menu for meditation, you know, the recipe, may not really fit into your own meditation emptiness. But you have to make it, you know. It is always better that, you know, the recipe that the kind of recipe that you have really kind of, you know, suits with that of the chief chef. You know, if that suits, always better, always on the safe side. So similarly, Lama Tsongkhapa, he's one of the greatest chefs. You know, so therefore our recipe always better to, you know, really fits with that of Lama Tsongkhapa's recipe of meditation emptiness. So that's really very important. Of course, first is really challenging, but then you try, and then gradually, actually as said by Shantideva in his text, that there is nothing which will not become familiar, which will not become easy for you through familiarity. So similarly, you know, when this recipe really becomes your recipe of the meditation and emptiness, you know, how great would it be? So let's attempt it. Given that the whole and parts will be unrelated if they have distinct entities, reject distinctness of the two. Okay, number one. Say we think about the self, yourself, you know, yourself. Say you take you meditate on the emptiness nature of oneself, right? So simply don't jump into, you know, oh, I don't exist inherently, where is I, this body, this. Don't simply jump into that, right? Then at one point, so in the beginning it might be quite interesting, then it just finishes within a few seconds. You know, then it will gradually become a kind of routine. And then it will have no effect at all. And then you come out of meditation, you are just the same solid person. You know, there's not much effect. So simply follow through this very systematic, you know, very systematic pattern of meditation as given by Lama Tsongkhapa. So it is not actually from Lama Tsongkhapa's own recipe, it's the recipe of the Buddha. You know, so just try to follow that. So let's see. Given that whole and parts will be unrelated if they have distinct entities, reject distinctness of the two. So say, now look, you know, you want to meditate on the emptiness of what? Emptiness of yourself. Because we know that all problems, somehow they're associated with the self. You know, the grasping at the self. So if you know that the self truly does not the way it appears to our mind, you know, it is really emptiness of independent existence, then there is a total loosening, there will be a total, you know, pacification of our emotions. So let's meditate on the emptiness nature of the self. But how? So Lama Tsongkhapa, according to his guidance, we have, you know, given that the whole and parts, what is the whole? Say yourself, you know, yourself. Say Venerable Jambal, Venerable Tarpa, or Venerable Chunyi, Venerable Semkye, you know, just. And we have really knowledgeable Venerable Chugi. I'm really amazed by her knowledge. Yeah. So simply think of yourself, you know, Dallas or Kevin or Christina or Tracy or Kathleen, you know, simply think of yourself. Okay, I'm Kathleen. I am, you know, Dallas. Like that. Simply think of that. And then I'm the whole. This is what I refer to as the whole person, the whole I. Right? Next, the parts. The parts constituting your body and your mind. Your body also constituting of the different parts like head, eyes, ears, limbs, you know, the chest, and so forth. And, you know, the skin, the inner bone, the bones, the blood, the flesh, all these things, you know. And a mind, you know, the positive minds, the negative minds, the neutral minds, today's mind, this morning's mind, this afternoon mind, you know, they're all different parts whole and parts will be unrelated if they have distinct entities. Now look, so you have to be very systematic. So here, Lama Tsongkhapa is asking to examine, yourself as a whole. Oh, this is quite a tricky part. Look, this is quite a tricky part. Last time I talked about how, the physical flower appears to you, when we are dealing about the identifying the object of negation. I simply talked about the flower. Now you try to think of yourself, yourself, oh, Venerable Chunyi. Oh, I'm Chunyi, so where is I? And then in fact, it's so strange, This is so, the deviousness of the self. Look, what happens is that when you are in the wake of anger, when you're in the wake of jealousy or attachment, this sense of self is so prominent in you. I'm the one. Now look, when you're really in need of that self, the appearance of that, it simply, hides away. It simply hides away. So here Lama Tsongkhapa asks us to examine what is this, what is this whole, referring to the self, and what are these parts? Parts are okay, they don't really argue, they don't really feel obsessively attached to something. It's okay, but still these parts, they are more prominent in us, in our mind. When you really want them to appear to you, they really appear to you so quite prominently. But then the self, when you think about, what the self is like, it simply hides away. It simply runs away, escapes from our vision, from our thought. This is so strange. Now, we should again, in our training, we should be trained in such a way that, first of all, this self, comes to our mind whenever you like it to come to your mind. This is what we need to train. This is really very important, because every time you meditate on the emptiness nature of the self must, first of all, the inherently existent self must be so prominently appearing to your mind, which we are to negate, right? So if that really runs away from, our vision, from a thought, then what are we going to negate? Again, the same problem, so this is so funny. So we really need to work out with that, to make sure that whenever you like to think of the self really appears so prominently in you. But this, through training, we can do that. It's not that, the self always, the self can always run away, from us. It's not like that. So we can, through training, we can bring it to a point where the self, whenever you like to think of the self, it comes there, so alive, Okay, so think of the self as a whole. And then think of the parts, the different parts of you. Right? Okay, so now Lama Tsongkhapa wants us to see if this self as a whole and the parts, they are of the same entity or distinct entity, right? They are the same entity or the distinct entities. So this is what we are to do. This is the next thing, right? So now look, same entity and distinct entities. This is what we learned in Sutrantika school, single and difference. So in that, single in what sense? Single in entity-wise or thought-wise or nominally? And distinctness in what sense? Entity-wise or nominally, on a nominal level, right? So now Lama Tsongkhapa wants us to examine this. If the self as the whole and the parts of the self, the different parts like eyes, the ears, nose, the teeth, the skin, the head, the neck, and these things, and the mind, whether these parts and the whole on the one hand and the parts on the other hand, they are the same entity or distinct entity, right? And then Lama Tsongkhapa, so here then he says that they will be unrelated if they have distinct entities. Just imagine they are of distinct entities. If they are distinct, what happens, right? Say say, distinct entities. So this is what we have learned. Distinct entities. What will happen to you if your body, if yourself and your parts are distinct entity-wise? So then in that case, you have to keep away all your parts on one side, and then still you should be here, So maybe to some extent we can do that. To some extent we can do that. Can you do that? To some extent, yes. For example, say, some people, they donate kidney, right? So one kidney, you take it out, leave it there. Still you are here. It's fine to some extent. And then say, if you're fortunate enough, you can also give the second kidney. You don't die. Still you are here. And then say, in some cases, there is heart transplantation, I don't know if, the real all heart is taken out. I don't know. I have no idea. Say that happens literally, as literally. Then the heart, you take it away. Eyes, you take away. The bones, you take away. Still imagine the self is there. And then, for time, instead of saying the self is there, simply imagine that. And then the whole skin, the whole bones, whole flesh, whole blood, everything taken away. And the mind also taken away. So what is left behind? Nothing. Nothing. So, which means that if you think of, the body, the self, and your parts as distinct, actually through this examination or through this experiment, we see that we cannot think of, such a nature. So instead, if you still imagine, by taking out everything over there, and you still remain so alive and so fresh here, then this indicates that you and your parts, they are totally unrelated. Because, say, this rosary is too small for me, and then you try to take it away, right? So, I separated this rosary and myself. There's a distinctness, right? There's a distinctness. So, when the distinctness is there in terms of the entity-wise, they are of distinct nature. This means that these two are the self and this rosary is totally unconnected, unrelated. Unrelated in the sense, you do something with this rosary and nothing will happen to me. Unrelated in that sense. So whereas, if someone, amputates me, then I'll be disfigured. This means that because of creating something, change to one of my parts will bring a change to me, to the self. Whereas if you bring a change to the rosary, I might feel a little bit, sad. But basically, overall, me, there is no change. In my absence, if somebody simply takes away or burns it or whatever, I won't even know about it. There's no change at all happening to me, which means that is unrelated. So do you think that the parts of you and you as the whole and the parts of you, these two are distinct things? If they are distinct, then what will happen? They will become unrelated in that sense. You become very old and still you said, I'm very young. And your mind, becomes so obsessed with attachment and still you said, I am a great arhat. Right? Your mind is obsessed with the attachment and these things, and still you claim yourself. You can claim as an arhat if these are totally unrelated. But this is not the case, because when your mind is totally obsessed with attachment, then you say that, oh, I'm no more arhat, I'm just ordinary being. And similarly, your body, when you feel that there's a sickness, when your body is crumbling, you become so old and crippled, then you will say that, oh, I'm crippled and I'm old. So this means that when there's effect, when there's effect to the change happening on the body, there's also a change happening to the self. When there's a change happening to your mind, there's also a change happening to yourself, which is an indication that you and your body, these two are not unrelated. So whereas if these two are distinct, entity-wise, if these two are distinct or separate entity-wise, Objectively, you can really point to this is the self, this is the parts of the self, separately, then these two become unrelated. Even if you color this, even if you color this cup with blue, or say, for fun, absolutely white, I'm not going to become white. I still remain as, the same color what I have, So whereas, if somebody, whitewash me, then people look at me and they might laugh at me. Oh, a very strange, person. So this means that my body and, the self as a whole, these two are connected. Whereas the physical body, the mark is not connected with me, is unrelated, unrelated to me. Because any change you bring there in the cup, self-wise, there's no change, right? So this is the indication that these two are unrelated things. Similar, likewise, just as I and this cup are two distinct entities, are they two distinct entities or one entity? Me and the cup, two distinct entities. Likewise, if my parts, they are the parts on the one hand, and myself as a whole on the other hand, if these two are distinct, entity-wise, these two are distinct entities, like the cup and me, then any change happening to the parts will have no effect to the self, which means that the parts and you become totally unrelated. But in true sense, you and the parts is, it's so closely bound in the sense, these are of the same nature, you and your parts. So it says that given that the whole and parts will be unrelated if they have distinct entities. So just imagine they are distinct entities. So in that case, the parts and you will be totally unrelated, right? Is this feasible? No. So we have to return, we have to go back to the position that these two are not distinct entity-wise. They are not distinct entities. Reject distinctness of the two, right? The second step. Now the next step, and show that the whole and parts are of same nature. This is the same thing, So after rejecting the self and the parts of the self, they are of distinct nature, then you come to show that the whole and parts, they are nothing but of the same nature. One. Next, now this look now becoming more and more challenging. So far, how difficult? It's okay, It doesn't really need the reason, very powerful laser beam like reasoning. We don't need that. Now becoming more and more challenging. Okay, what next? However much we may reflect upon their relationship, now however much you may try to reflect on this relationship between the self as a whole and the parts, right, of the self, while in a real sense of the term, the two exist as the same nature, right? This is what we have understood. In real sense of the term, the self and my parts, they simply exist as same nature. You point to self. Where is the self? I'm here. Where is your chest? It's here. You're pointing to the same object, which means that these two are of the same nature. Although this is the reality, in real terms, you and your parts, these two are of the same nature, but they undeniably appear as distinct natures. They, referring to the aggregates, the parts of the self and the self, as the whole. So these two, the self as the whole and the parts of the self, these two, when they appear to a mind, they appear as distinct. Now you may wonder how. So don't take things for granted, right? Okay, before I respond to this, I would welcome your response to this as to how do the self and the parts of the self, they appear to us as two distinct entities.
We talked about it like my body. So there's some my, and then there's a body.
Good.
Seems like two things.
Yeah, one is possessor and the other is to be possessed. Very good.
It also seems like we can control them.
Oh, see, can't you control them?
No, you get sick and you can't always control your mind, but you have this feeling like you should be able to control the body and control the mind.
Can't you control a cat?
Control the cat?
Cat also gets sick.
Yeah, the cat also gets sick.
So can you control them?
No.
I see. So this is cat and you are not distinct, entity-wise?
You can't control the cat.
You can't?
No.
So this means it's like you and your body? Okay. Yes.
I think, at least in terms of the body, that you group, parts which have similar characteristics, and we said, okay, the liver. We would group parts which have other characteristics, and we said the heart. So we kind of group things, and then the appearance is distinct.
So, what is that?
Is that this way the appearance is distinct?
I see.
Things
Yes, you're right. But this is quite a tricky thing. Very good thing. So again, if we come to know about what Christiana is coming up with, so that will again make our understanding even clearer. So she is coming up with this idea. So within the parts, we see that there's heart, we have lungs, we have kidneys. They're all distinct because they are the atoms or the molecules, the cells. They combine together, in a particular set, and we call it heart. And there's another collection of group of cells which combine to become lungs, right? And these we see so distinctly, so separately. Oh, where is heart? It's here. Oh, where is lung? It's here. You point to differently. So it's really distinct entity-wise. Now, where are we? Okay. Good. If you get to this understanding, then our exploration will become even more refined. How? We are not asking if these parts are distinct or of the same nature. We are asking what? If the self as the whole and the parts, these two, when you examine whether they are of the distinct entities or same entity, we need to bring in two objects, right? The two objects, they are not the lungs and the heart. What are they? The self on the one hand and the parts of the self. Within that, everything simply, we dump in everything. The heart, the lungs, the nose, the ears, mind, and everything in that category, in the second category. So we simply compare, the parts of the self composing the five aggregates, the body, the eyes, nose, and so forth, and on the one hand, and the self on the other hand. We compare the two. So whether these two are distinct or separate, it's the same. So I'm quite happy with what Kathleen answered. Still, to make it even clearer, say, to our mind, I'm not asking about what's the reality. If they are distinct, if they have distinct entities or same entity. I'm not asking this. How do this self on the one hand and the parts of the self on the other hand, how do they appear to a mind? Last time we have been talking about the appearance and the reality, right? So the reality we know, we have already established that on the reality, the self and the parts, they are of the same entity. If they are distinct entities, they become unrelated, which is unacceptable. This we have already established. Now we are exploring the second level, which is appearance. On the appearance level, how do these two appear? What these two? The self and the parts of the self. Good. How do they appear? These two appear. Whether they appear as, distinct or same. Now look. Now simply adding to, reinforcing what Kathleen responded, So Caroline's answer in itself is so refined. Say you see someone over there who is so healthy, who is so healthy, and you are sick all the time. What is that? Your body or your mind? It's your physical body. So you simply, I don't know if you really feel envious, but if you are given the choice, so do you, if this is possible, would you like to do that? I would like to offer you something. I will, take the body of that person, take your body away, and I will give you that new body, very healthy body. Do you like to exchange it? What do you say? If possible, yes. If possible, yes. Right? So which means that you have a feeling that even if your whole body goes away, still you will be left behind, So there it is, you feel as though like your body is like your house, You sell the house. You sell the house and you go out, still you are there, even while your house is already taken away by someone else. So similarly, you have the feeling that your body is what you can give to someone else and get a new body for yourself. Right? So this indicates that you have a feeling, you have the appearance that the self and the body, these two are two distinct entities. Number one. And this is very clearly stated in Dharmakirti's commentary on valid cognition, Pramana Vartika. And then now with regard to the mind, you study about all these things and still we find it so challenging. And then what about the Buddha or Manjushri? Oh, they understand it in just milliseconds. Oh, in no time they understand it. Now the question is, oh look, you pity, you poor guy, it takes so much time for you to do that. I'll have a shortcut for you. What is that? Oh, your mind is so dull for that. I'll take, we can exchange your mind. You can give your mind to Arya Manjushri and take the mind of Arya Manjushri. And what do you think? Oh, it may not be possible. If possible, I'll do it. It'll be so wonderful idea. Then I don't have to study anymore. Then I will know everything. So there again, look. Although you say that it's not possible, but if it is possible, then I would love to do it. Which means that you are ready to give away your whole mind and take a new set of mind, right? So this indicates that you have a feeling that you and your mind, these two are distinct entities, right? As though like your mind and your body, they are like merchandise and you are like the merchant, The merchandise getting lost or someone taking away, or you sell it to someone and still you as the merchant, remain behind. So look, this is how, the path of the self and the self, the relationship in the two is appeared to your mind as distinct entities. This is undeniable. This is how, the two are appeared as of distinct entities to our mind. What is the next step? Then, okay, let's read it again. Given that the whole and parts will be unrelated if they have distinct entities, reject distinctness of the two and show that the whole and parts are of same nature. We did that. Number two, however much we may reflect upon their relationship, while in the real sense of the term, the two exist as the same nature, this is what we established. However, on the appearance level, they undeniably appear as distinct natures. This also we did. Now look, this. So, can you see the contrast between the two? The reality and appearance. What is the reality? The self and a part of the self, they are of the same entity. What is the appearance? They are distinct or separate entity-wise, right? So, which means that last time we have been talking about when there's a gap between the reality and appearance, what is that described as? As illusion, right? So now look, this, like a magical illusion, discerns the union of the appearance in one way, and the emptiness of the object existing in that fashion. Okay, so this is rather the summary. This is like the summation of the first two conclusions or the understanding that we arrived. So it is the union. Union meaning this is simply the combination of the reality on the one hand and the appearance on the other hand. We come to know that the gap between the two. Because of this gap, the appearance-wise and the reality, the same entity or a same entity, and the appearance, distinct entities. So therefore it is illusion-like. It is illusion-like because there's a gap between the reality and appearance, right? It is illusion-like. Like a magical illusion, discerns, means, it gives you a conviction or understanding. The union means the combination of these two, the combination of the reality, and the appearance, the gap between these two. You come to know these two. You come to know the reality and you come to know the appearance. You come to know both. This is what is known as the union, right? Union when it comes to the same thing, the self and the parts. The self and the parts, appearance level, one. A reality, another, another. So you come to know that, there are two things with the same object. Appearance level, you see something, and the reality, there's something different, right? So this is like magical illusion. This is the union of the appearance in that way, in one way it appears, and the emptiness of that appearance in the reality, right? But still although it is said emptiness, but still we are not at the emptiness. We are in the beginning level. Still we have more to go. So now what? So up to this point, clear? Up to this point it's not difficult. It's not difficult. Up to this point it's quite easy. Now look, it's becoming more and more complicated. But don't be afraid. Okay, next. While this union finds no inconsistency with the deceptive mode of existence, where things are posited through the power of the appearance to a mind. So now look, while this union finds no inconsistency with the deceptive mode of existence, where things are posited, keep this in mind, where things are posited through the power of the appearance to a mind. This part is more confined to Svatantrika Madhyamika. This part, posited through the power of the appearance to a mind. Underline that. Posited through the power of the appearance to a mind. Underline that part. This is more exclusively for Svatantrika Madhyamika. So if we want to, go for according to Prasangika Madhyamika's presentation, then we simply say things are posited through mere appearance, a mere imputation by thought. Simply change that. Otherwise, the main structure will remain the same, right? Okay. So now look, one way it might sound easy. From the other way, it will be it is so complicated. So now look, while this union, which means the gap between the reality and appearance that we have seen, what is that gap? What is? The illusion-like, In what way illusion-like? In the appearance? Oh yeah, in the appearance, distinct entities. In reality, same entity, this union. This union finds no inconsistency, means it will go, it will fit with a deceptive mode of existence. which means that if something is, say, you know that person A always tells lies, you know, and then one day, Journey, you know Journey, he comes with a great amazement. Oh, person A, you know, person A, what he said was not right. And you will not be amazed. You will not be surprised. You know who person A is. Why? Why you are not surprised? Because you know that this is person A's nature to always tell the opposite of the reality, right? So you are not surprised. So similarly, Lama Tsongkhapa is saying that this union, the gap between the reality and the appearance, there is nothing to be surprised about if the object is, you know, deceptive. If person A is deceptive all the time, then you don't find it surprised to see that there's a gap between what he said and the reality. Similarly, Lama Tsongkhapa is saying that this gap with a particular object, the appearance and the reality, there is a difference. So, you know, it'll go well if the object is deceptive. But if the object is truly existent, then this is complicated. Because true, if you say, person A always tells the truth, if you believe that, then all of a sudden, you know, you hear something which is totally untrue, then you'll be surprised. Right? Okay, so now let's see. While this union finds no inconsistency, which means it'll go so well with the deceptive mode of existence. So what is deceptive mode of existence? So according to Svatantara Madhyamika, where things are posited through the power of the appearance to a mind. Now look, you know, things entering into more obscure understanding. Deceptive mode of existence, while things are posited through the power of the appearance to a mind, it is abjectly not feasible. So now saying that, you know, this gap will go well with the deceptive object, but will not go well with the truly, you know, non-deceptive object. Non-deceptive means reality and appearance, they should tally, right? So it says, it is abjectly not feasible for an object whose mode of existence is truly existent, which means not through the power of the object's appearance, to a mind. Okay, so I know still things are not clear. You know, there is a little bit of haziness, I know, in your mind. Haziness going on. When this is happening, it's good. I mean it. I don't, you know, I'm not trying to be flattery, you know. This is what I mean. If there is haziness, this is what I'm expecting. Is it coming? Haziness? Yeah. Oh, good, very good. Very good, yeah. So we'll keep on reading this paragraph, you know, and then I'll explain more. Let's see. It is abjectly not feasible for an object whose mode of existence is not through the power of the object's appearance to a mind. Very long sentence, you know. So what, to put it in a single word or, you know, just two words, it would be, you know, it is abjectly not feasible for a truly existent phenomena. So, you know, the whole line that we have here, object whose mode of existence is not through the power of the objects of appearance to a mind. So this simply means the truly existent phenomena. But why didn't Lama Tsongkhapa, you know, came up with this very brief word, very short, you know, line rather than hold this long line, you know? Is it that we are more intelligent than Lama Tsongkhapa? No. There's a whole purpose in it, and that we'll discover a little bit later, right? Okay. So anyway, so far, what we have come to know is the easy one. The same thing which can be looked at from two different angles. One from the easy part and one from the difficult part. Say, what happened was that, okay, I'll narrate, so what time we should be stopping? At 3:30, right? Still we have 35 minutes. So what happened was that, in the olden times, so now a little bit relaxed. I know there's haziness, you know. It will really make your whole body hazy. So to give a little bit of rest, you know, let it calm down. So what happened was that that, when the same sentence can be looked at from two ways. One, very easy. Nothing. It's so easy. I understood it, And if you're asked to explain it, you can explain it so well. One. Number two, a different way of, looking at it. And from that perspective, it's really very complicated. And once you're able to explain that way, then you're done. Emptiness is there, right? Okay. So, but we don't know, which direction we are going, right? So in this connection, what happened was that in the monastic universities, even nowadays, as used to be in the past. So that was in the past. There was a teacher and a student. And the teacher's work is to teach the students the basic ideas of debate and the subjects. And then it is the work of the students to, go into the debate courtyard and then debate with one's colleagues, by bringing the subject matters from the subject matters that you have learned from your teacher, and then others will bring in knowledge from their own teachers, and then they argue to see, whether you are able to defend your position. And then the student, this particular student, always tend to take the debate so easy. And the teacher would ask, "Oh, are you able to follow the debates in the debate courtyard?" And they would say, "Very easy." And then the teacher would say, "Oh, you found it easy? Okay, this means that you have not understood. Go and debate." And again, the next time, again the teacher would ask, "Oh, how about today? You follow the debate?" And we say, "Oh, very easy. Oh, you have not understood. Yeah, go and debate more. You need more debate. You need to be trained more." And again, so this really happened, a couple of times, several times. And then one day, because of the student's exposure to the debate for more and more and more, then he started seeing the subtle nuances there, started discovering the subtle nuances and all these things. Then he started unraveling the whole complexities of the debate, Then he came to know that it's a big headache. And then the next day the teacher asked, "How about the debate?" And he said, "Oh no, it's hopeless, so I cannot really debate anymore. I come to know how complex it is." And the teacher is so happy. "Now it's up to you whether you go to debate or not, stay behind. It's up to you. You have understood debate." So the same debate, same person. So when the person really understands the in-depth of that, then you will come to know how complicated, how complex that is. And whereas when you don't understand anything of that, then you see it is so easy. Okay. So likewise, the same passage, if you look at from one way, it's so easy, there's nothing. And it has also nothing to do with emptiness. So if this is emptiness, all sentient beings must have been liberated by now. Whereas if you read it from the other side, then really, just one passage, one paragraph, short paragraph, and it's so weighty. It's so profound and weighty. So let's see. Okay. So first, up to this point, we said that this union, which means the disparity between the reality and the appearance that we have so far discovered, so that will fit well with a deceptive object. Because this is the definition of deception, deceptive object. Deceptive means gap between the reality and the appearance, right? So whereas this will not go well with truly existent object, undeceptive object, right? It will not go well with undeceptive or non-deceptive object, because non-deceptive means, no gap between the reality and appearance, which means the tallying between the reality and the appearance. So whereas in the case of the self and the parts, we see that there's a gap between the reality and the appearance. So it will not go well with the truly existing phenomena, and this will go well with the deceptive phenomena. So if the object is deceptive, it's all right. Whereas if the object is truly existent or non-deceptive, it will not go right. This is not permissible. For a non-deceptive phenomena, the gap between the reality and the appearance is not permissible. But for a deceptive phenomena, the gap between the reality and the appearance is permissible. You got it? Okay, let me, or otherwise, one of you just tell me, why is it the case that this union will not go well with the deceptive, will go well with deceptive phenomena? Anyone? Just give me your own thoughts. Appearance and the reality not matching. This is the definition of deception, right? Okay, now the next question. This union, does it go well with non-deceptive phenomena? Why?
Because then seeing things as one entity, the appearance and the reality, they both have to be that. And that isn't how we see it.
Okay, yeah. So non-deceptive means, oh yeah, non-deceptive means there should be no gap between the reality and the appearance. So what we are talking about, this union of what? The gap between the appearance and the reality. So it doesn't go well with the deceptive object, but it goes well with non-deceptive object. What does it indicate? It indicates that the self and the parts, they belong to the deceptive category and not the non-deceptive category, because they fulfill this criteria of the union, the gap between the reality and the appearance. You want to again put me in? I'm just kidding. Please. This is my joy. Yeah, please.
This is saying that something that truly exists must appear to sentient beings as it's true, as that object which it truly exists as.
Say it again.
Well, I'm just...
No, it doesn't matter. Just tell me what your thoughts.
If something truly exists...
Yeah, if something truly exists...
It appears to us exactly
as
how
truly,
it exists.
Yeah, then...
It doesn't appear to us in any way other than the way it exists. There will never be any discrepancy between its appearance to us.
Good.
But then, couldn't you just as easily say that it's appearing, it from its own side is coming out truly and giving off the true appearance of it, but our distorted mind is what's making it not appear that way?
Did you follow his argument? It's wonderful. It's so wonderful. This is a question that came to me when I was studying this. So wonderful. Make it a point not to stray yourself from this line of reasoning and this line of study, right? It's amazing. It's amazing. Keep up with your analytical inquiries. So amazing. It's so precious. So the question is, let me paraphrase your question and then see if I'm getting correctly. If not, correct me. The question is imagine the table exists truly, right? So even if the table is truly existent, but in the eyes of the sentient beings, it can be, appeared in a different way, which means that, even if it truly exists, the existence, the reality, and the appearance may not still tally. To sentient beings. Even if, say, this is green, and say it truly exists as green, and my eyes, somehow I suffer from jaundice, and because of which, I start seeing this, imagine this paper, this is better, imagine this is a truly existent paper, white, and then I look at it, and I see it is yellow, a yellow paper, truly existent yellow paper. So, is there a gap between the reality and the appearance? Yes, no? What is that? What is the gap?
Yellow and white.
Good. The object exists truly. It doesn't mean that the appearance and the reality should tally. Right? Even if the object is true, it is not the case that the reality and the appearance should tally. This could be the example. Say this sheet, this paper exists truly, right? And then you may see it as yellow because of your jaundice right problem. And then this is truly existent, but there's a gap between the appearance and the reality. Is this a question?
Yes.
Just correct me.
It seems that this is contradicting that logic.
Yeah. So this is what I'm pointing to. So according to what we said here, this union, the gap between the appearance and the reality, is not possible in the case of a truly existent phenomena. But in the case of with the example that Venerable Jambal is coming up with, even if something is truly existent, still there can be the gap between the appearance and the reality. You agree? Mm-hmm. Oh, just keep that in mind, right? So before me responding to this, keep this question in mind. It's really good. Yeah. Anyway, did I get you fully?
That's exactly right.
Good.
So, Geshe, as long as there is a mind involved, anything that appears as truly existent, because the mind is involved, the objectivity of that object is could not be feasible. Because the mind's appearance is...
What, is that a response to Venerable Jambals?
Well, I'm just trying to get some clarification.
Oh, good.
Taking that a little bit farther.
That is what I'm asserting that is being contradicted by this text.
Yeah. So actually what Venerable Jambal said is quite clear. So Samkhya, please continue, carry on.
Well, I'm just trying to... What Venerable Jambal is asserting is that because there's objects, despite their true existence, any time there is a mind involved, that true existence of that object is up for interpretation because of the mind that's involved in perceiving it.
That's really very interesting class. All different great philosophers. Actually, I'm unable to follow,
Well,
So I know that what you're saying is something so profound.
Because the mind is not objective.
Yeah, very true.
So there's no way for a mind to objectively perceive something, according to this school of thinking, objectively.
I see. So the mind is not objective, so how can it possibly see the truly existent object? Yeah. Oh, great philosophers. So I must come more prepared. So I really appreciate. Anyway, let's go further. But keep your questions in mind. I'll not let your questions escape, in the course of a discussion. So first let me carry on. And then, so I will first try to sum up what we said. And then we come to know that, this is quite easy. So that is when that student, he was always saying, the debate is so easy all the time, So we'll come to know that. And then gradually I'll explain the other side. The same thing, the other side. And then we might come to know that, it's so complex, So where you really start understanding it. Anyway, it doesn't mean that I understand. It doesn't mean that. I don't understand anything. So what I'm trying to convey to you, is what I've heard from my teachers. So my job is simply like a tape recorder, passing on. I don't think the tape recorder understands anything of emptiness, but can convey everything so correctly from, what is recorded. So I think I have, a good tape recorder. Right? So, and those listening to the tape recorders, perhaps because of the very strong background of the merit, and also because of, the intelligence, the combination of these two, who knows, the tape recorder always repeating the same thing, whereas who's the listener really understands and, really sparkles. Okay, let's see. That's really very interesting passage. Let me read it again. Very interesting. While this union finds no inconsistency with the deceptive mode of existence, which means the union, the gap between the reality and the appearance, goes so well with the deceptive mode of existence. Number one, where things are posited through the power of their appearance to a mind. So this line, where things are posited through the power of their appearance to a mind, is what is known as the deceptive mode of existence. 1, right? And don't take things easily. I'll ask you more questions. Next, it is objectively not feasible for an object whose mode of existence is not through the power of the object's appearance to a mind. So this simply means that it is objectively not feasible, means it's not, this union doesn't go well with an undeceptive mode of existence, right? Undeceptive mode of existence, you have this whole line for an object whose mode of existence is not through the power of the object's appearance to a mind, right? Okay, so up to this point, we, understand at least, whether on the first level of that child's understanding or the second level of the understanding, we don't know. So anyway, still, we know that it's simple. What is said is that this union, this gap between the real and appearance is possible if the object is deceptive. It is not possible if the object is truly existent. As simple as that. Next. In the case of true existence, why it is not possible with the true existence? Because in the case of true existence, which is explained earlier, which means object whose mode of existence is not through the power of the object's appearance to a mind, right? Earlier, it is not permissible to have inconsistencies between the appearance and the mode of existence, which means the reality. For a truly existent phenomena, true existence, the appearance and the reality, they should be consistent. They should have no inconsistency. It's a kind of repetition. In true sense, it's not a repetition, it's a clarification, but to us, it seems like repetition. Anyway, as long as we understand something is all right. Existence of the object, as it is on the basis of the sheer abstention of falsities that true existence is posited. Why is it not permissible that for a true existence, the appearance and the mode of existence referring to the reality, the appearance and the reality, there should be no, inconsistency in the case of true existence. Why? Because true existence is defined as something without this gap. It is on the basis of the sheer abstention of falsities, meaning there should be no gap between falsities. Meaning, what is falsity? It is a gap between the reality and the appearance. Whereas if there is no gap, then it's not false, right? The sheer abstention of falsities, meaning that, the true existence is totally against falsities. Abstention, meaning the opposite, it is freed of falsities.
Absence. Should be absence.
Yeah, true existence should be absent of falsities, should be freed of falsities, should be, should be abstained of falsities. Abstention of falsities, that true existence is posited, meaning that true existence is posited, or it is defined as something which is freed of falsities. Sheer, abstention, sheer freedom from falsities. So it is much more like simply clarifying what is true existence means, right? Now haziness is increasing, I know. Moreover, it deems their same nature untenable. Now look, moreover, it deems their self-nature untenable as the mind perceiving them as distinct natures becomes otherwise not mistaken. So now look, if the object is truly existent, this is continuation from our discussion about as to what true existence means. So if the particular object is truly existent, then it deems their same nature untenable, meaning it deems the object and its parts, having same nature. What about the there, T-H-E-I-R, there, this refers to the whole and the parts. Whole and parts. So what is the reality? The reality is that they have same nature, right? But if they truly exist, if they are not deceptive, which means if they are truly existent, simply try to follow what I'm saying right now, just on the spot, what I'm saying. Simply try to understand this. Don't worry about, the previous haziness. Don't worry about that at all. Just forget about it, Simply follow what I'm saying on the spot, right? And then we'll redo it, right? Okay. So, there, what does it refer to? It deems there. What is this there? The whole and the parts. Yeah, the whole and the parts, which we are talking right from the beginning. They are same nature. What is the reality that we have come to understand? That these two are of the same nature, right? Okay. They are same nature, untenable. If the parts and if the whole and the parts, they are truly existent, then, our knowledge, our previous knowledge that these two are of the same nature becomes untenable. Why? Why? You may say that. As the mind perceiving them as distinct natures becomes otherwise not mistaken. Okay, it sounds a little bit philosophical, some way, disappearing, some way seems like proper English, seems like conveying some message, but what is that message? Disappearing into thin air, So what exactly it is saying is that again, it seems like repetition of what is said earlier. Say, if something truly exists, then there should be no inconsistency between the appearance and the reality, which means that the appearance and the reality should tally. I'm sure Jambal is unhappy about this explanation, He wants to be so straight. Okay, anyway, let's go. Let's go and let's see. So what it's saying is that if the parts and the whole, these two exist truly as non-deceptive, then the appearance and the reality should tally, which means that whatever appears to you should resemble the reality, right? How does the part and the whole the parts and the whole appear to a mind? As distinct. So just as they appear distinct to a mind, they should exist as distinct, in reality. If they are distinct in reality, this means they are not same nature in reality, right? So, now look, moreover, it deems their same nature untenable, meaning that their same nature cannot be held as tenable, as permissible, because, the mind perceiving them as distinct natures becomes otherwise non-mistaken. Becomes non-mistaken if the object should exist truly. Why? Why should the mind perceiving them as distinct natures becomes unmistaken if the objects exist truly? Better let us go this way. My question to you is, why? If the objects truly existent, if the whole and the parts exist truly, right? Why should that mind which perceives these two as distinct nature, be unmistaken? Sorry?
Because if you see two entities.
Why?
Because
I agree with you, but still, why? The response is that, the response Venerable Tharva gave is that this mind which perceives the whole and the parts as distinct, are they distinct entities or same entity? Same entity. But how do they appear to a mind? As distinct entities. So this mind perceiving the whole and the parts as distinct entities should be unmistaken. Why? Because Venerable Tharva responded, because these two should be, of distinct entities in reality. Next question is why they should be distinct.
because appearance and reality would be matching.
Exactly. Because if the objects truly exist, then the appearance and the reality should be same. Which means just as things appear in whatever fashion, it should really represent the reality. Because something, that object truly exists in an undeceptive way, right? Mm-hmm. We get somewhere? Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Then what about your understanding of emptiness? Something? Or did it touch anything? No, right? You're able to follow what is said there, but still nothing to do with emptiness. Right. So if that happens, so this is like the small kid who's always saying, oh, the debate is so easy, right? Now, but this is really very important. unless and until we, get to this point, there's no way by which we can get to the other point, right? Okay, this is really very important. Then, for your interest, just for your information, let's again read the next passage to see. Through this understanding, right? By these, what? Oh, just eliminate this bit. THIS. Oh, these. THES, just remove that. By this same reasoning, one refutes true existence about non-functional objects. That's it, we finished. We have already refuted true existence. So what did you understand? Okay, good. If you have not understood anything, right? And yet, in terms of emptiness, right? So this means that, my recipe is better than Lama Tsongkhapa's recipe. Recipe on emptiness, right? Okay, so now our job is to move to the next step. At least we have, managed to get to the first step, right? And the time is almost over, right? Okay, we'll stop here. Now, your job is to read over that again and at least understand the literal, the literal context. At least. That must be so thorough. So without that, leading to the next step, again, I'll go from the same passage, right from the beginning, so that will become then hopeless. Then if the haziness still remains, I'm not responsible. I'm really not responsible, So your job, I told you, at least try to make sure that you get what is there on the surface correctly, right? Even if you have to, during your lunch and these things, even if you have to discuss among yourselves, to explain each of these things, to make things really go smoothly, you do that and you get it. Once you get it, if you truly come up well prepared from your side, as to what I've explained right now, so clearly, explained, and you got it clearly when you come next time, then I can quite assure you that that haziness will become thinner and thinner and thinner. Otherwise, if you're not prepared, if you think that, it's easy, it has nothing to do with emptiness. Still, I got everything. Then if you don't read it over again, if you don't reflect it again, over it again, next time when you come, the haziness will increase. When that happens, don't complain. I'm not at all responsible, right? Then in a few days I'll be away, and then don't complain this to anyone, right? And don't accuse me. Oh, look, he taught something and it makes no sense, only the haziness. He simply created this haziness and then he left. Okay, right? So this is my warning. This is our homework. Okay.